inevitably come, but which we have to deal with, as well as mitigation on a more global scale. So I think I'll just start this time with Andy, and I'm going to ask you to keep your remarks
this time, sorry.
Substantial but succinct.
Okay, on models, yes, absolutely. I think there's a real problem with the groupthink and the fact that these models often are simply putting more and more and more physics in without necessarily providing any more insights. And actually, there's a real challenge in how you actually reflect that and communicate what they are actually telling you and how useful some of it actually is. So yes. On the science, yes, I think that science has been noted as being one long argument. I think criticism helps to hone an argument. So I think some of it's wild and woolly, some of the criticism, but equally I think some of the statements by scientists were pretty wild and woolly too. And I think actually in the medium term, at least, if not in the short term, it'll have done a good thing in the sense of focused attention on what we do know, what we don't know, and where we are uncertain. And on adaptation, yes, absolutely.
Susan, can I ask you to comment on the last of these from the broader perspective of the new Scotland, how we address issues like this, which are difficult issues for us all. So just taking adaptation as an example, thoughts about how we can go about that in Scotland?
Well, I thought David's point's really important about how we bring these things closer to home. I mean, the harsh reality is that we are very, very able at ignoring images that we see, which is about, whether it's about poverty and starvation in Africa or natural disaster on the other side of the world. We were quite inured to those kind of images and don't act on them nearly as much as we should. And maybe takes us into some quite deep stuff about the human condition. But, I think it's just a fact, we're much more likely to act on matters which are closer to home and which are more immediate to us. The constituency I used to represent in the Scottish Parliament had a big bit of coastline, and issues like coastal erosion, were very real and starting to become much more a matter of local concern. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to get better at connecting up those different issues. And I think to link in with the second point that was raised, I think there's quite a challenge, not just for science, but for academia in general, frankly, about how it shares knowledge, how it learns from others, and critically how we develop a kind of shared discourse that frankly can be applied in the real world in real time. So I'm not quite sure if that addresses the points that were raised, but them's my thoughts.
Alex, you were, I think, concerned about the whole aspect of communication. Now here is a suggestion that criticism may actually be a good thing and may help. Thoughts about that, and perhaps also about this whole business of the information that goes into the box, because you have seen that over the years.
Yeah, I've watched that develop quite considerably over the last 20 years. As far as the peer review thing's concerned, and the fact that we have been questioned, I mean, good science is built on scepticism. Let's be honest about this. The best of science is always built on asking a question. The point being that we get to a stage where actually, stop it. We've got enough questions. And at this point, I think the academics need to go away almost and let the communicators do the communicating. I think there is a problem is if you put scientists up in front of the wrong people, they will get shredded. And I've seen it happen time and time again. Brilliant people torn apart by clever interviewers. It's not difficult. I've done it myself.
What, being in the receiving end? Or?
Both. I've been Paxoed 3 times and survived each one. So it really is difficult. The model question is absolutely crucial. In fact, you don't need to know that. I think that's the point. Because we're academically focused, we want the models we want to see all the machinery that's in there. But you go into a motor car, you drive your car from A to B, you don't really need to know how the pistons go up and down. It's irrelevant. You just want to get from point A to point B. So as far as the models are concerned, what you really need to be able to do is prove them and prove that they've been adequate and prove that historically and then in the future, the output from them is sensible and reasonable. And that's been done to death. And that's the message that needs to go across. We've gone back 150 years, we've run the model for 150 years, right up to the present day, and you get the same answer as reality. So the models themselves are relatively good. And I think that's the message that needs to go out. Nothing. If you start looking inside the box as an academic and as a scientist, fine. But as Joe Bloggs and Joseph Pearce's and Leith Watt, nah, doesn't give a damn.
Do you think that that might be perceived by those on the outset as a trifle arrogant?
Yes.
I mean, that's your point.
I'm absolutely, yes, I agree. But at some point, you have to get to the stage where, hang on a minute, you know, this is what's happened. We've proved it close.
In the way that I don't challenge my GP if he tells me I've got something, I need to take a tablet for it, and actually at the end of the day, you can go to Google, but get on with it.
Yes.
But before Stuart comes in, can I just say, I mean, 10 years ago when the first round of UK climate impacts programmes models came out, I was going around talking to local authorities and businesses and saying, these are the predictions from the UK climate modelling community. And it basically says it's going to get warmer in this part of Scotland, and then either it's going to get wetter or it's going to get drier. What are you going to do about it? And that was the challenge, was that within a particular space, we knew it was going to get a bit warmer, and it was either going to get much wetter or it was going to get a little bit drier. And it would be somewhere in that bound. And the bound was so big as to be almost meaningless to have that conversation with somebody. And that is where it becomes difficult, where the modelers need to stop and think, whoa, how does that bear any relation to the world that people are living in and how they respond to it and so on. So I think there's an issue there.
Yeah. Okay, Stuart, pick up any of these points if you
Okay.
like. And we'll open it up to the House.
Not being a habitué at the top of Leith Walk very often, I'll just do it from my own perspective. Look, and definitely I agree, too much modelling is really, really waste of time and it's bad for your health. So Jim Hanson's model, he did first of all back in whenever it was, the 70s or the 60s or something, ran 30 odd years forward to about now, and it's come up with pretty much the same answer that we've got now. And he's retired a month ago, so he's had a whole career doing this, and not much has changed with the modelling. The fundamental conclusions are still identical. And really, I'd draw the analogy with the weather forecast. You know, better data, better observations can improve the percentage chance of being right, but I don't care what's in the Met Office model. All I need to know is it's a 45% chance of rain tomorrow, which is slightly different to a 55% chance of rain the day before. And I'm not that much bothered. So predicting a complex system is always going to be complex, and I don't think you're ever going to land on the exact answer for the particular 500 square metres which I'm living in. So I'm not looking out for a great improvement of modelling, but I'm looking out for a great improvement in the debate, because I think that what Andy, I think, said is correct, that, and Alex said, we need better communicators. And I think when scientists are challenged, they revert back into being very extremist. So scientists are a whole tribe of extremists who don't like being challenged, especially by people who haven't got 5 degrees and who haven't been to university. Nonetheless, these other people do have a vote, and they count for just as much in the debate. And so the challenge is, how are you going to convince them that this is a strong enough argument that it overcomes the argument about the price of bread, or am I going to have a job next year, or where my children are going to go to school, or whatever. So that has to reach this sort of higher priority, and it's manifestly not got there. And what I think we're doing to change the debate slightly is nothing. So the International Energy Agency 2 weeks ago, I think, came out with its status of renewables and everything else energy report, because of course the driving force is nasty people burning fossil carbon. And basically the International Energy Agency says, we look back to 1970, what we were doing to produce dollars worth of economic product, and we look to now, and we're producing dollars worth of economic product by burning exactly the same amount of carbon. So there's also been precisely no progress in that energy efficiency, even though locally, of course, in Scotland, etc., we're doing lots and lots locally, but overall, as a planet, very little has happened. So what I think we're drifting into by inertia and by vested interest and by being comfortable about where we are, we're drifting into adaptation because we're going to have to. And we also are drifting into the probability that we will at least attempt to control the planet. So we do have the option of doing nothing. That's okay. That doesn't cost us very much directly. But we have the option of choosing to have a planet which is 2 or 4 degrees warmer with more carbon dioxide, where we can have, on average, a more diverse life form and, on average, a better time. And all we need to do is control the temperature a little bit. So that is an option which we're sensibly going to have to look at one way or the other. And I just wonder what people think about that.